We'll be looking at the best battles to ever come out of this swashbuckling series. This is no small task given the sheer amount and high quality of every exchange, but we managed to whittle it down based on their impact, execution, and just how awesome they are. As you might expect, prepare yourself for no end of spoilers ahead. Number 10, Ace vs Blackbeard. If it were any other opponent, Fire Fist Ace would have burnt them to cinders with a single swing, but alas, his opponent was none other than Whitebeard's old comrade Marshall D. Teach, and he's got a devil fruit even more terrifying than his own.
My body is darkness.
The clash between the sun and the shade is so fearsome that it levels an entire town, while also serving as the trigger that leads to Ace's imprisonment. We were sure that we hadn't seen the end of Blackbeard's cruelty, but this was the moment we knew we were watching One Piece's ultimate villain start to emerge. Number 9, Sanji vs Jabra. We had to give our boy Sanji a chance to shine somehow, and shine he does when he unleashes some fiery footwork in the form of the Diable Jambe.
Whoa, it's glowing!
This turns out to be just the thing he needs for him to take out the CP9 member Jabra, who, in addition to a mastery of hard-hitting martial arts, can transform himself into a wolf.
Tendron!
However, no amount of cunning can stop him from getting on the receiving end of Sanji's blazing heel as he sends him crashing through Eni's lobby. Number 8, Nightmare Luffy vs Oars.
Go, go, go! Volcano!
While this gigantic zombie does indeed put the crew through their paces, when going up against the Straw Hats, you'd best be prepared for the fight of your life. Oars certainly manages to lay on the damage thanks to stealing Luffy's powers for himself, but he doesn't stand a chance when said captain returns to the fray, this time imbued with 100 of Thriller Bark's vengeful shadows.
Here it comes! Right fall!
With their strength added to his own, Luffy is able to take out his undead double with quite the brutal display of force. Number 7, Zorro vs Kaku.
You've given yourself a blind spot. Giraffe sight!
Who would have guessed that the swordsman of the Straw Hat Pirates taking on a giant giraffe would have made for one of the arc's most epic confrontations? Given that Luffy and Lucci were beating each other bloody next door, that's saying a lot.
Three-sword style. Tatsu. Iron body!
Despite his rather ridiculous new form, CP9's second deadliest assassin manages to push Zorro to the edge. At least until he talks shit about Robin, and then the gloves come off.
Your mouth just crossed the line. Now you're gonna pay, you arrogant freak.
Oh, did I offend you?
Busting out the 9-sword style, Zorro manages to cut his way through all of Kaku's attacks and end this battle in a brutal swing.
Ashela! Silver mist!
Number 6, Luffy vs Usopp.
At 10 o'clock tonight! I'll be back, so you better be ready for a fight, Captain!
Talk about emotional. After clashing over the fate of their ship, the Going Merry, Usopp challenges Luffy to a fight, winner taking claim to the vessel.
Now special attack X-Star! Again!
Now, you think this would be a walk in the park on Luffy's part, but surprisingly Usopp manages to hold his own, outwitting and wounding his captain in a visceral display of defiance.
Sorry! Flame Star!
Of course, he can only hold out for so long before Luffy lands the finishing blow, leading to the two parting ways as the crew is splintered from within. Enemies come and go, but seeing two steadfast friends fight like this is just heartbreaking. Number 5, Luffy vs. Crocodile. One of the finest villains the series ever produced, the shadowy leader of Baroque works nearly brought the country of Alabasta to its knees through deception and his own overwhelming power. Hell, his devil fruit was so staggering that he buried Luffy under a whole desert at one point.
Did you really think you were my equal?
This would pave the way for one hell of a rematch, where Luffy used his own blood in order to lay the smack down on the Sand user. Thankfully, the crime boss isn't out of the picture yet, so there's every chance these two could clash again in the future, since Croc seems to hold a grudge.
Amazing! He punched him straight up through the bedrock beneath the city.
Number 4, Zorro vs. Ryuma.
So you think you can take my black blade Shusui away from me, do you?
Oh, I'm taking it.
Why just have Zorro gain a new sword when he could earn it by defeating an undead samurai? One of the highlights of the crew's misadventures in Thriller Bark, Zorro finds himself battling for control of Brook's soul against the zombie known as Ryuma.
Rush him on! Yeah!
Despite his decrepit appearance, the old boy still has some strength left in those rotten bones, putting the Straw Hat Swordman through his paces. Still, there's not a snowball's chance in hell Zorro would lose before his long-awaited duel with Hawkeye Mihawk, shown when he gives his foe a proper warrior's send-off. Number 3, Luffy vs. Doflamingo. It's a testament to Oda's genius how he keeps managing to make each of his villains so wholly hateable within such a short frame of time. A former noble turned warlord, Doflamingo is one nasty piece of work. His anger and psychosis leading him to take control of the kingdom of Dressrosa through rather bloody means. His actions send him on a collision course with Luffy, ending in a brawl for Dressrosa's future. While they're evenly matched when it comes to the use of Haki, Luffy has a trump card that not even the Puppet Master can stand against: Gear 4th. Number 2, Whitebeard vs. Akainu. There were many casualties during the war at Marineford, but none hit closer to home when this wicked admiral ended Ace's life. While nothing will ever fill the void left by his departure, we were given a consolation prize as we watched Whitebeard dwarf the magma user before lashing out with righteous fury. Despite being shot, stabbed, and having his body blown apart by molten rock, Whitebeard's anger over losing his precious son keeps pushing him forward, resulting in Akainu getting absolutely wrecked. Number 1, Luffy vs. Lucci.
Now shave! Bring it on!
In order to save the life of crewmate Robin, Luffy had only one obstacle to overcome, the CP9's ultimate assassin Rob Lucci.
You're shortening your own lifespan, just for a few minutes of strength.
It's better than letting you take away everything I care about. I'll do anything to keep that from happening.
But you've still lost, even if you do defeat me.
With a slew of powerful techniques and a transformation into a leopard hybrid, Lucci was pretty much the perfect killing machine, one easily capable of standing up to Luffy's gear 2nd and 3rd. It even looked like he won the day when he blasted Luffy's insides to pieces.
16 gun!
Unfortunately for this kitty, Luffy isn't one to let something like internal hemorrhaging stop him, which he goes on to display by letting loose a barrage of punches so strong, it pretty much takes out 8 of Lucci's 9 lives.
One Piece originally came out in 1999, and now after almost 20 years, it's as good as ever. The story, the world, the characters, the fights, the entirety of One Piece is still at the very top, especially with the new Wano Country arc in manga. Welcome back to ViniiTube, and today we're going to talk about the top 10 best fights of one of my favorite series, One Piece. At number 10, we have Zorro vs. Ryuma. We're starting off with everyone's favorite sword-wielding Straw Hat. Zoro's had some bad luck with his swords breaking, and now for the 3rd time in search for a new sword, he's found himself an amazing piece of Wano craftsmanship attached to a dead man, that corpse being Ryuma, the zombie samurai. Ryuma is our first glimpse of the Wano country, the island inspired by Edo period Japan. It's a land full of samurai warriors, ninjas, and inequality. This fight is well animated, full of amazing techniques, and the respect between the warriors is what really drives it home for me. Next up at number 9, it's Luffy vs. Arlong. Arlong thinks fishermen's a superior race, especially because of the hate he suffered under the rule of humans. His tattoo of a sun's being made to hide the slave mark he had after being imprisoned by the celestial dragons. Even for a fishman, Arlong has impressive strength, being of the shark breed. Under and above water, there are few that can match his strength in the East Blue, except Luffy. This fight is the first one in which Luffy really suffers and bleeds. Even though it aired 19 years ago, it still remains one of my favorite One Piece moments. Moving on to number 8, it's Straw Hats vs. Oars. Oars is a zombie that is 4 times larger than any ordinary giant. 500 years after his death, Moria found him and kept his body for 10 years. Hogback repaired his body, and together with Luffy, Moria finally found a worthy shadow to put into his body. Luffy's will instantly showed up when Oars woke up, demanding to eat every last piece of food Moria had and proclaiming that he will be Pirate King. What makes this fight special for me is the combined effort of all the Straw Hat pirates to defeat Oars. To this day, it's the only time the Straw Hats all work together to defeat a single foe. At number 7, it's Zoro versus Mr. One. As Luffy's second in charge, Zoro usually gets to face the second strongest in the enemy's group. In the Alabasta arc, while Luffy was trying to figure out how water works, Zoro was busy trying to work out how to cut steel. Zoro's opponent in this arc was Crocodile's right-hand man Daz Bones, aka Mr. One, with a bounty of 75 million berries, so just 6 million below Crocodile's 81 million bounty. He's the user of Dice Devil Fruit that allows him to create strong steel blades out of any part of his body. So he's literally a man of steel. Basically the perfect opponent for Zoro not to fight. But stubborn Zoro decides to put his grit against Mr. One, and the result is Zoro becoming a man that can cut steel. At number 6, it's Luffy versus Crocodile. Crocodile was the first warlord of the sea to fight Luffy, and the first enemy to defeat him not just once, but multiple times. He was the first Logia Devil Fruit user we met, Logia being one of the, if not the, most powerful Devil Fruit types to exist. Crocodile ate sand fruit to become a man of sand, so any attack goes through him like a hand through sand, which is why Luffy struggles against him. One of my favourite moments in the show is the first blow Luffy lands against Crocodile's smug face. Ultimately, this fight showed some of the creative ways Devil Fruit fights can take and the interesting interactions between them. Next on the list at number 5, it's Luffy versus NL. I know many people don't like the Skypiea arc, but I personally did. I love the way NL's introduced as this literal god that can call lightning from the sky like Zeus, as well as the country of Skypiea and its internal conflict between two opposing factions of the nation. NL has eaten the Rumble fruit that allows him to control and transform into electricity. As I said, all Logia fruits are pretty much overpowered. Unluckily for NL, Luffy is made of rubber, and rubber doesn't conduct electricity, so he can just beat him down like any other opponent. NL takes it as if he's never been hit before in his life, which perhaps he really hasn't. If it weren't for Luffy being the paper to NL's rock, there's no telling how far NL would make it. Moving on to number 4, it's Luffy versus Usopp. This is one of the emotionally heavy fights in the show, a confrontation between friends over the fate of their ship Meri. After the myriad of adventures they've had, Meri's taken a beating. While Usopp has tried his best, their trusty ship just can't take them any further. While Luffy is ready to make the hard decision as captain to find a new ship for their journey, Usopp sees this as a cold-hearted decision of abandoning a friend, which Meri truly is to all of them. Now this conflict boils over with Usopp covered in bandages against his captain. Usopp is arguably the weakest of the Straw Hats, but he surprises everyone with how much of a fight he puts up. While Luffy's stronger without a question, Usopp manages to outsmart him on multiple occasions, but no amounts of smarts Usopp brings are enough. He can't stop Luffy's sheer endurance and strength.
そのままゴム
そんな攻撃
At number 3, it's Luffy versus Doflamingo. It's been 15 years since we were introduced to Dolphy as a villain, and after that we finally get this fight. Doflamingo was the king of the underworld in the One Piece world, thanks to his cleverness and his string fruit that allow him to create and manipulate strings. This fight was a climax of an arc that gave us so much. Straw Hat and Law cooperated, we saw Gear 4th, and the end of one of the strongest villains the One Piece world has to offer. Number 2 on the list is Luffy versus Lucci. Rob Lucci is the leader of CP9 and the main antagonist of the Water 7 arc. Cypherpol is a part of the world government that's in charge of intelligence gathering. They're the CIA of the One Piece world, and CP9's a special subdivision of Cypherpol in charge of assassinations. Given the elite status of this division, that kind of explains how strong Rob Lucci is. When he first appeared, Lucci defeated both Luffy and Zoro. The CP9 and Rob Lucci were such a big threat that in order to defeat them, Luffy had to develop both Gear 2nd and Gear 3rd all in an arc. And finally, at number 1, it's Luffy versus Katakuri. Katakuri holds one of the largest bounties that we know of at 1 billion berries. He's eaten the mochi mochi fruit that allows him to create, control, and transform into mochi. His abilities are similar to Luffy, but only more powerful in every regard. Katakuri's most powerful ability is Observation Haki, which he's trained to such a degree that he can slightly see into the future. Luffy recognizes that Katakuri is better than him in every way, but in order to protect his friends, he challenges him and defeats him. During the fight, both of them begin to respect each other and develop as a person and fighter. This for many has been the most amazing fight One Piece has ever had, especially in the anime, which had some of the best animation we've seen from Toei Animation. Well, that's it from this list. I hope you liked it. Don't forget to comment below with your favourite fight from the series. Subscribe if you want to see more anime-related videos, and hopefully I can make more One Piece-related content without getting copyright struck by Toei. I'll see you next time on ViniiTube.